Ladies and gentlemen, friends and dreamer, I stand before you today to talk about something we often overlook but is at the core of everything we do in life, our minds. Our minds are powerful, but they need to be disciplined. You see, the mind is like a wild horse. It's beautiful, full of potential, but left untamed, it runs in any direction it pleases. It gets distracted by every little thing that comes its way. One moment you're thinking of your goals, the next you're lost in worries about the future, doubts about the present, or regrets about the past. Our minds are constantly bombarded with thoughts, most of which don't even belong to us. They are either stories we have been told, fears we've inherited, or lies we've convinced ourselves to believe. But here's the thing: you have the power to control the direction of your mind. You don't have to be a prisoner to your thoughts. I'm not talking about controlling every single thought that pops into your head. That's impossible. But what you can do is become more aware of them. You can choose which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones should be sent packing. Disciplining your mind starts with awareness. It begins with recognizing the moment you start drifting off into negative or unproductive thought patterns. Maybe it's self-doubt. Maybe it's fear of fate or failure. Maybe it's the crippling thought that you're not enough. But when you become aware of these thoughts, you can stop them right in their tracks. You can ask yourself, is this helping me? Is this moving me toward my goals? If the answer is no, you can choose to think something else. A more empowering thought, a more positive thought. Discipline your mind by challenging the stories you've been telling yourself. Some of those stories are lies. You are not defined by your past. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are not confined by the opinions of others. The story of who you are is still being written, and you are the author. It's not always easy, though. Life has a way of testing us. It will throw challenges in our way, and when we're down, our mind can often amplify the negative. But remember, your mind is not your enemy. You are the one who controls it. And once you understand that, the possibilities are endless. Disciplining your mind also means being kind to yourself. We're our own toughest critics. We rarely talk to ourselves with the same kindness we offer to others. But imagine how different your life would be if you treated yourself like you would treat your best friend: patient, understanding, and compassionate. Your mind will thrive in an environment of kindness, not criticism. One more thing: discipline also means persistence. Our minds are like muscles. They grow stronger the more we train them. Don't expect instant results. There will be days when your mind wanders. There will be days when you doubt yourself. But as long as you get back up, as long as you keep practicing, your mind will learn. It will learn to focus, to stay calm in the face of chaos, to stay hopeful in the face of adversity. So as you leave here today, I want you to remember this: discipline is not about forcing yourself to be perfect. It's about progress. It's about consciously choosing the thoughts that empower you and letting go of those that hold you back. The more disciplined your mind becomes, the more you'll realize that nothing can stand in your way, not your circumstances, not your doubts, and certainly not the voices of others. You have the power to create the life you desire. It all begins with the discipline of your mind. Our minds are complex, intricate systems that constantly generate thoughts, some of which help us thrive and others that hinder our progress. Yet, most of us move through life without fully understanding the nature of our thoughts or realizing how much influence they have over our lives. In fact, many of us are unaware of how much control we truly have over our thoughts and how significant it is to take ownership of them. Awareness of thoughts is the first and most crucial step in disciplining the mind, because without it, we become passive recipients of whatever our minds decide to present to us. When we allow our minds to run unchecked, we risk being swept away by a tide of negativity, self-doubt, and distractions. Our thoughts can wander aimlessly, carrying us through a cycle of worry, regret, fear, and judgment, often leaving us feeling drained, overwhelmed, or unproductive. This happens because we don't stop to question what we're thinking. We let our thoughts guide us, but without awareness, they can take us anywhere, most of it leading to places where we don't want to go. Imagine for a moment the sheer power that lies in recognizing your thoughts as they occur. In the very moment you begin to doubt yourself, you can catch that doubt before it spirals. In the moment you feel anxious about the future, you can challenge that anxiety, reminding yourself that the future is unknown, and there's only so much you can control. In the face of anger, frustration, or any strong emotion, you can pause, recognize it, and decide how to respond instead of reacting blindly. This level of awareness is transformative because it means you're no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the one in the driver's seat. The key is to recognize that thoughts are not facts. They are simply mental events, transient and fleeting. If you think of your thoughts like clouds floating across the sky, you'll realize that no single cloud stays forever. Similarly, thoughts come and go, but they don't define you unless you allow them to. If you attach yourself to a negative thought, it starts to shape your reality. But if you observe it without judgment and let it pass, you remain unaffected. This is the essence of awareness, noticing your thoughts, but not becoming them. For instance, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you think about? Often it's a reflection of your mindset. If you wake up thinking, I have so much to do, I'm overwhelmed, that thought sets the tone for the entire day. But what if, instead of letting that thought control your actions, you catch it in the moment and choose to reframe it? What if you recognize that feeling overwhelmed is not your reality, it's just a thought, and you have the power to replace it with something more empowering like, I will take it one step at a time and everything will fall into place. That simple act of awareness, catching that first thought, sets a different trajectory for your day. This awareness is not just about noticing negative thoughts, but also recognizing the positive ones. Sometimes we dismiss the good thoughts, assuming they aren't as important or as urgent as the negative ones. We tend to overlook moments of gratitude, joy, or accomplishment, thinking they're fleeting or unimportant. But it's just as essential to be aware of the positive thoughts in your mind. When you recognize your strengths, your achievements, or the things you're grateful for, you can build on them. This positive awareness can propel you forward, helping you remain motivated, focused, and centered. Awareness of thoughts also helps you understand the patterns that shape your thinking. If you pay close attention, you'll start to see recurring themes. Maybe it's a tendency to doubt your abilities, to fear failure, or to focus excessively on what others think. These patterns often go unnoticed simply because they are ingrained habits of thought. But by becoming aware of them, you can begin to challenge these patterns and replace them with healthier, more productive ways of thinking. It's like cleaning out a cluttered room. You start to notice the things you've accumulated over time and can begin to discard what no longer serves you. Take, for example, the thoughts that emerge when you face a challenging situation. Do you think I can't handle this, or do you think I've faced difficulties before and I have the tools to manage this? These two different thoughts lead to entirely different experiences. The first leads to helplessness and inaction, while the second leads to empowerment and resilience. By being aware of the negative thoughts that come up when faced with difficulty, you can consciously choose to replace them with positive, empowering alternatives. But becoming aware of your thoughts isn't a one-time task. It's an ongoing process, one that requires patience and practice. The mind is often quick to slip back into old patterns. And sometimes, even when you try to be mindful of your thoughts, you might find yourself lost in a sea of worry or frustration. This is where discipline comes in. It's about developing the ability to gently bring your focus back when your mind drifts off. Each time you notice your thoughts wandering, you have the opportunity to choose a different thought, a different direction. The more you practice this, the stronger your ability to control your thoughts becomes, and over time, you'll notice that the negative thought patterns lose their power over you. Another important aspect of thought awareness is recognizing the impact that your environment and interactions have on your thinking. Think about the people you spend time with, the media you consume, and the situations you immerse yourself in. All of these external factors influence your internal dialogue. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it's easy to adopt a similar mindset. If you watch distressing news all the time or engage in conversations that focus on fear, scarcity, or anger, your thoughts will reflect that. On the other hand, if you expose yourself to positivity, whether through uplifting conversations, inspirational books, or activities that bring you peace, your thoughts will begin to shift accordingly. Awareness extends beyond the individual to encompass the external world around you, because it all plays a role in shaping the thoughts that arise in your mind. Awareness also involves practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is the art of being present in the moment without judgment. It's about observing your thoughts and feelings with curiosity rather than identifying with them. When you practice mindfulness, you become the observer of your mind, detached from the emotions and stories your thoughts create. This helps you step back and see your thoughts with clarity, understanding that they are not absolute truths. In this space of observation, you have the power to choose how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. The awareness of thoughts can also lead to greater emotional regulation. Often our emotions are a direct result of the thoughts we entertain. If you think negatively about a situation, chances are your emotions will mirror that negativity. But if you become aware of the thought that triggered the emotion, you can challenge it and redirect your emotional response. For example, if you feel anxious about a presentation, instead of allowing that anxiety to overwhelm you, you can recognize that your thoughts about failure or judgment are creating that anxiety. You can then consciously replace those thoughts with more positive and rational ones, which will help you stay calm and collected. It's also important to note that awareness is not the same as perfection. We all have moments when our minds get the better of us. We will all experience moments of frustration, fear, or negativity. The key is not to strive for perfection in our thoughts, but to strive for greater awareness, knowing that even when we slip, we have the power to get back on track. It's a journey of constant practice and self-compassion. The more aware you become of your thoughts, the more control you gain over your life. Your thoughts shape your actions, and your actions shape your reality. If you want to create a life of purpose, success, and fulfillment, it all starts with disciplining your mind. It starts with becoming aware of the thoughts that guide your daily experiences. It's not about controlling every thought, but recognizing the power that lies in the moments when you choose how to respond to them. When you develop this awareness, you unlock your full potential, and you begin to steer your life in the direction you truly desire. Awareness of your thoughts is the first step to mastering your mind, and from there, the world is yours to shape. Consistency is the bedrock upon which success is built. It is the steady, persistent effort that propels us toward our goals, even when the journey seems difficult, slow, or discouraging. In a world that often celebrates quick results, it can be easy to underestimate the power of consistent practice. Many of us are drawn to the allure of instant success or fast progress, but the truth is that real, sustainable growth rarely happens overnight. It's the small, consistent actions taken day after day that compound and lead to meaningful achievement. To discipline the mind, we must recognize the importance of consistency and understand how it shapes our success in every area of life. At the core of consistency is the commitment to showing up, regardless of how we feel in the moment. It's about creating habits that align with our goals, even when motivation wanes or obstacles arise. Motivation can be fleeting. Some days we wake up feeling inspired, ready to conquer the world, but on other days we may feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. If we rely solely on motivation, we risk being inconsistent. This is where discipline comes in, choosing to take action even when the initial spark of motivation fades. Consistency means not letting temporary feelings dictate our long-term progress. It's about doing the work even when it's not glamorous, exciting, or immediately rewarding. For example, consider the pursuit of a fitness goal. It's easy to go to the gym for a week or two, feeling energized and enthusiastic about the progress you're making. But what happens when you don't see immediate results? Or when you're exhausted after a long day and the last thing you want to do is work out? This is where consistency comes into play. It's the decision to show up for your workout, even when the excitement has worn off. It's committing to the process, knowing that every workout is a step toward your goal, even if you can't see the immediate impact. Over time, these small, consistent efforts build up and create lasting change. The same principle applies to any goal you set in life, whether it's learning a new skill, improving your relationships, or advancing your career. It's the small, consistent actions that make the difference. Consistency also requires patience. We live in an era of instant gratification, where the results of our efforts are expected almost immediately. But real, meaningful growth takes time. When we commit to consistency, we acknowledge that progress might be slow, but we also recognize that each step forward is progress nonetheless. We begin to embrace the process rather than obsess over the outcome. Instead of focusing on how far we still have to go, we celebrate the small wins and milestones along the way. Patience allows us to remain steady and resilient when the results aren't immediately visible. It's about trusting the process, knowing that the seeds we plant today will eventually bear fruit. One of the most significant benefits of consistency is the development of resilience. When we commit to consistent effort, we are less likely to be derailed by setbacks or failures. We come to understand that obstacles are not permanent roadblocks, they are part of the journey. Consistency teaches us how to navigate challenges, how to keep moving forward even when things get tough. It builds mental toughness, the ability to persevere in the face of adversity. Instead of quitting or giving up when things don't go as planned, we find ways to adjust, adapt, and keep going. This resilience is cultivated through consistent effort over time, and it becomes one of our greatest assets in achieving success. Another key element of consistency is self-discipline. It's about making decisions that align with your values and goals, even when it requires sacrifice. Self-discipline is not about being rigid or punishing yourself for indulging in moments of rest or relaxation. It's about understanding the importance of prioritizing long-term goals over short-term comforts. Consistency requires us to say no to distractions and impulses that don't serve our ultimate vision. It means sticking to our commitments, even when we'd rather take the easier route. When we practice self-discipline, we build trust with ourselves. We begin to believe in our ability to stay on course, and this belief fuels our confidence and motivation. Consistency is also about creating systems and routines that make success inevitable. When we establish consistent habits, we remove the need for constant decision-making. Routines eliminate the mental energy spent on deciding whether or not to do something. Instead, it becomes automatic. Working on your goal becomes part of your daily life. For instance, if your goal is to read more, setting aside 30 minutes each day to read makes it a non-negotiable part of your routine. It's no longer a matter of motivation or mood, it's just what you do. When you integrate positive habits into your daily life, you set yourself up for success without even thinking about it. Over time, these habits compound, and the results begin to speak for themselves. It's also important to recognize that consistency does not mean perfection. There will be days when you miss a workout, forget a deadline, or slip up in some way. The key is not to get discouraged or allow these setbacks to derail your progress. Instead of focusing on the one day you faltered, focus on the many days you showed up and kept going. Consistency is about showing up again and again with determination and commitment. It's about acknowledging mistakes and continuing to move forward instead of letting them define your journey. When we approach consistency with grace and understanding, we make it easier to stay on track, even when things don't go perfectly. Another powerful aspect of consistency is its ability to build momentum. When we show up day after day, we begin to see progress, however small. This progress fuels our motivation and keeps us going. The more consistent we are, the more results we start to see, and the more we believe in our ability to achieve our goals. Momentum creates a positive feedback loop, where each step forward encourages us to take the next step. Eventually, consistency becomes its own reward. The habit of showing up becomes so ingrained that it no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes a natural part of who we are and what we do. Ultimately, consistency is about creating a mindset that values the journey as much as the destination. It's about showing up for yourself every day, regardless of external circumstances, and putting in the effort needed to achieve your goals. It's the unwavering commitment to your own growth and success, even when the road ahead is uncertain. Through consistent action, resilience, patience, and self-discipline, you can transform your dreams into reality. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about doing it consistently. Mastering your emotions is one of the most important steps in disciplining the mind. Our emotions are powerful forces that can shape our decisions, influence our behavior, and dictate how we experience the world. Often, emotions arise without warning and can take over our thoughts and actions. In moments of intense emotion, it can be easy to feel like we are at the mercy of our feelings, reacting impulsively without thinking through the consequences. However, when we learn to master our emotions, we gain control over how we respond to the world around us. We no longer let emotions dictate our actions, but choose to respond thoughtfully and intentionally. The first step in mastering emotions is self-awareness. Before we can manage our emotions, we must first understand them. This requires taking the time to observe and identify our emotional states. For example, when you feel angry, frustrated, or sad, ask yourself, what triggered this emotion? What am I really feeling? Often, emotions are layered, and what we think is the root cause may not be the entire picture. By pausing to reflect on what we are feeling and why, we can begin to separate our immediate emotional responses from the deeper underlying issues. Self-awareness helps us avoid knee-jerk reactions and instead take a step back to assess the situation from a more balanced perspective. Once we have identified our emotions, the next step is learning to process them. Often we try to suppress or ignore our emotions, thinking that they will go away on their own. However, unprocessed emotions tend to build up and manifest in unhealthy ways. For example, ignoring feelings of anger can lead to passive-aggressive behavior, while repressing sadness can cause feelings of numbness or detachment. To master emotions, we must allow ourselves to feel them fully without judgment. This doesn't mean acting out or giving in to every emotional impulse. Rather, it's about acknowledging the emotion and allowing ourselves to experience it without letting it take control of our actions. By doing so, we prevent emotions from building up and affecting our mental and physical well-being. One of the most powerful tools in mastering emotions is emotional regulation. Emotional regulation involves being able to manage and adjust our emotional responses in a healthy and productive way. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it's about choosing how to respond to them. For example, when we feel angry, we can learn to channel that energy into constructive action, such as communicating our needs calmly or using physical activity to release tension. Similarly, when we feel anxious or overwhelmed, we can practice mindfulness or deep breathing exercises to bring ourselves back to the present moment and regain a sense of calm. Emotional regulation requires practice and self-discipline, but over time, it becomes easier to maintain control over our reactions. Another key aspect of mastering emotions is developing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions while also empathizing with the emotions of others. People with high emotional intelligence are able to navigate social situations with ease, respond to conflicts in a constructive manner, and communicate their feelings in a clear and respectful way. Developing emotional intelligence requires active listening, both to ourselves and others. By paying attention to our emotional responses and learning to interpret the feelings of those around us, we can develop stronger relationships and navigate difficult situations with greater ease. It also involves practicing empathy, putting ourselves in someone else's shoes and trying to understand their perspective, even if we don't agree with it. One of the challenges in mastering emotions is managing negative emotions like anger, frustration, and fear. These emotions are natural, but if we don't learn to control them, they can lead to destructive behaviors. For example, unchecked anger can damage relationships, while constant fear can paralyze us from taking action. To manage negative emotions effectively, it's important to recognize their triggers and find healthy ways to release or reframe them. When you feel anger rising, take a moment to pause and breathe before reacting. Ask yourself what is truly causing the anger and whether it is worth the energy to respond aggressively. In many cases, we find that our anger is a result of a perceived injustice or feeling misunderstood. Instead of lashing out, we can choose to express our feelings in a more constructive way. Fear, similarly, can be addressed by confronting it directly. Instead of avoiding fearful situations, we can break them down into manageable steps, gradually building confidence as we face our fears. Mastering emotions also involves cultivating a positive mindset. While it's important to acknowledge and process negative emotions, it's equally important to focus on positive emotions that can help us stay grounded and motivated. Gratitude, joy, and optimism are emotions that can shift our perspective and help us face challenges with a sense of hope and possibility. One of the most effective ways to nurture positive emotions is through gratitude. Taking time each day to reflect on what we are grateful for can shift our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. We all have stories we tell ourselves, stories that shape how we see the world, how we see others, and how we see ourselves. These stories are often created from our past experiences, beliefs, and perceptions. While some of these stories are empowering, others can be deeply limiting. These limiting beliefs hold us back from reaching our full potential, keep us stuck in old patterns, and convince us that we are less than we truly are. The second keynote, challenging limiting beliefs, requires us to confront these internal narratives and rewrite the ones that no longer serve us. Limiting beliefs are the invisible chains that restrict us. They are often formed early in life and are shaped by our upbringing, culture, or experiences that may have made us feel unworthy, incapable, or undeserving of success, love, or happiness. They manifest as thoughts like, "I'm not good enough, I always fail," or "this is too hard for me." These thoughts may seem like harmless statements at first, but over time, they erode our confidence and set the stage for self-doubt. One of the first steps in challenging these beliefs is recognizing when they appear. Many times, limiting beliefs show up subtly, embedded in our automatic thoughts and reactions. For example, you might be facing a new challenge or opportunity, and immediately, without even thinking about it, you hear a voice in your head telling you you're not qualified or you're going to fail. Just like the last time, these thoughts can be automatic. And they may feel like the truth, but they are just beliefs, not facts. Recognizing that these thoughts are not objective truths is the first step toward dismantling them. The next step is to question them. Ask yourself, is this belief based on evidence? When did this belief first take root? And more importantly, is this belief still serving me today? Often, limiting beliefs are based on past experiences like a failure or a hurtful comment from someone we admire. But just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it will happen again. Just because someone else doubted you doesn't mean you are incapable. By questioning these beliefs, you start to see them for what they are: distortions of reality that were created based on incomplete or irrelevant information. Take, for instance, the belief, I'm not good enough. Where did that belief come from? Did someone in your life make you feel like you weren't worthy? Did you fail at something once, and now that failure has become a defining part of who you are? If you dig deep enough, you may find that this belief is rooted in a single event, or perhaps a series of similar events, but they do not define who you are. The truth is, you are not the sum of your failures. You are not the mistakes you've made or the missteps you've taken. You are a person with endless potential, capable of growth, change, and success. Once you've questioned these beliefs, the next step is to replace them with new, empowering beliefs. Challenging limiting beliefs is not enough. You need to replace them with beliefs that align with who you want to be. This requires actively choosing thoughts that empower you. For example, instead of believing, I'm not good enough, you can replace it with, I am worthy of success and growth. Instead of thinking, I'll never be able to do this, you can choose to think, I am capable of overcoming challenges and I will learn along the way. This doesn't mean that you will never have doubts or moments of insecurity. What it does mean is that you are choosing to believe in your potential rather than your limitations. Every time that voice of doubt arises, you have the power to replace it with a more empowering thought. Over time, as you consciously shift your mindset, these new beliefs will become more natural. You will start to see yourself in a new light, not as someone defined by past mistakes, but as someone with infinite possibilities ahead of them. Another important aspect of challenging limiting beliefs is recognizing the power of language. The language we use to describe ourselves and our circumstances shapes how we experience life. For example, when we say, I can't do this, it reinforces a belief of powerlessness. But when we say, this is difficult, but I am capable of learning and growing through it, it shifts our mindset from one of limitation to one of possibility. The words you use about yourself and your abilities are powerful. They create your internal reality, and if you want to break free from limiting beliefs, you must be mindful of the language you use. One of the most common limiting beliefs people hold is the belief that they are not worthy of success or happiness. This belief often stems from deep-seated feelings of inadequacy or guilt, and it manifests in thoughts like, I don't deserve this, or success is for other people, not for me. Challenging this belief begins with recognizing that you are inherently worthy. You do not have to earn your worth. It is not based on your achievements, your appearance, or the approval of others. You are worthy simply because you exist. Once you internalize this truth, you begin to shift your actions, your choices, and your experiences to align with your true worth. Another limiting belief that holds many people back is the belief that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. We fear failure because we associate it with shame, embarrassment, or the idea that we are not good enough. But failure is not the enemy, it is part of the journey towards success. Every successful person has faced failure and used it as a stepping stone toward their goals. By changing your perception of failure from something to fear to something to learn from, you open yourself up to growth and opportunity. When you challenge your limiting beliefs, you free yourself from the confines of your own mind. You no longer allow past failures, external judgments, or negative experiences to dictate your future. You become the architect of your own reality. By replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, you step into your true potential and create a life that aligns with your deepest desires. This process of challenging and changing limiting beliefs is not instantaneous. It takes time, effort, and patience. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And as you rewrite the stories you tell yourself, you create a life that reflects your true worth, your true capabilities, and your true potential. We often find ourselves being our harshest critics. We look at our flaws, compare ourselves to others, and constantly feel like we're not doing enough or being enough. Self-compassion, however, is a practice that counters this inner critic. It's the art of being kind to ourselves, especially during moments of struggle or failure, and it plays a crucial role in disciplining the mind. Many of us are conditioned to believe that in order to succeed, we need to push ourselves constantly, never showing weakness or vulnerability. But this approach often leads to burnout, exhaustion, and even deeper feelings of inadequacy. When we allow ourselves to be kind, to treat ourselves with patience and understanding, we create an environment where growth can thrive. The first step in cultivating self-compassion is recognizing that we are human. We all have flaws, we all make mistakes, and we all face challenges. It's easy to look at someone else's life and assume that they have it all together, that they never face the struggles we do. But the truth is, everyone is fighting their own battle, even if we can't see it. By accepting our humanity, we acknowledge that imperfection is part of life and not something to be ashamed of. When we can give ourselves permission to be imperfect, we remove the pressure of having to be perfect all the time. We no longer need to constantly meet impossible standards, and we start to feel more at peace with ourselves. Self-compassion also involves speaking to ourselves with kindness the way we would speak to a friend who is struggling. Imagine that your friend comes to you after making a mistake or failing at something. What would you say to them? Likely you would offer them support, encouragement, and reassurance. You wouldn't criticize them or tell them they are a failure. Yet, many of us treat ourselves with far less kindness. We judge ourselves harshly for every misstep, as though we don't deserve the same empathy we readily offer others. To practice self-compassion, we must learn to speak to ourselves in the same loving, supportive way. When you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, try saying, "It's okay to make mistakes. I'll learn from this and do better next time." By being kind to yourself in these moments, you begin to build a foundation of self-respect and acceptance. Another essential aspect of self-compassion is letting go of perfectionism. Many of us strive for perfection, believing that only if we are flawless can we be worthy of success or love. But perfection is an illusion. It's an impossible standard that keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-criticism and dissatisfaction. No matter how hard we try, we can never meet the idealized version of perfection we create in our minds. Accepting that perfection does not exist frees us from this exhausting pursuit. It allows us to embrace our authentic selves, flaws, mistakes, and all. When we let go of perfectionism, we make room for progress. We stop holding ourselves back because we fear not being good enough and start taking bold steps forward, even if we're not sure of the outcome. Self-compassion also means recognizing the need for rest and recovery. In a world that constantly glorifies hustle, we often feel guilty for taking breaks, for resting, or for not being productive every single moment of the day. But rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity for our well-being. When we don't take time to care for ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally, we run the risk of burning out. By practicing self-compassion, we acknowledge that our bodies and minds need time to recharge. We learn to listen to our needs and honor them without guilt. This doesn't mean being lazy or avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that rest is a vital part of being able to give our best to the world. One of the challenges we face in practicing self-compassion is the belief that being kind to ourselves is selfish or indulgent. We might think that if we show ourselves too much kindness, we won't be motivated to improve or achieve our goals. But this is a misconception. In reality, when we treat ourselves with compassion, we are more likely to be resilient, to bounce back from setbacks, and to keep moving forward. Self-compassion isn't about letting ourselves off the hook, it's about giving ourselves the grace to learn, grow, and continue our journey without the burden of guilt and self-judgment. In moments of difficulty, practicing self-compassion can be a powerful tool for emotional regulation. When we face challenging situations, whether it's a failure, criticism, or a personal struggle, our minds tend to react with negative emotions. We may feel ashamed, frustrated, or anxious. In these moments, instead of adding to our suffering by being hard on ourselves, self-compassion allows us to acknowledge our emotions with acceptance and care. We recognize that these feelings are temporary, and instead of spiraling further, we comfort ourselves and take steps to heal. By being kind to ourselves in these moments, we break the cycle of negative self-talk that can keep us stuck in a state of emotional turmoil. It's also important to remember that self-compassion is not the same as self-indulgence. Being compassionate with yourself doesn't mean avoiding responsibility or ignoring areas in which you need to grow. It's not about giving yourself permission to stay in a place of complacency or stagnation. It's about being gentle with yourself when you face challenges, allowing yourself the space to grow and improve without harsh criticism. This shift in mindset makes all the difference. When you treat yourself with compassion, you empower yourself to take on challenges with a sense of calm and clarity. You no longer view setbacks as failures, but as opportunities for learning.